the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball. Knocking those...
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome to the Mets Off Day Show right here on my channel and Hector's channel. But we got a full roundtable crew here today to talk about our New York Mets on this off day. We got Hayden, we got Zach, and we got Hector. Obviously, Mets Talk with Hayden. We got Sunny Days in Flushing, and we also got Hector with the Blunt Thoughts. And, of course, Talking Mets and Rob here. How is everybody doing on this lovely off day? Everybody can take a deep breath. Mets lost, Knicks lost, of course. A shitty New York day for most of us, but we do have a very fun day tomorrow as New York will be jumping with Mets fans, Yankee fans, and Knicks fans for Game 6 of the semifinals in basketball, and of course the start of the Subway Series in the borough we don't really like in Yankee Stadium. Guys, how is everybody doing? Hayden, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, what's going on, Rob? Good to be back on here. I know it's been a hot minute. I think it's the first time this season. So, Rob and I, we go way back, like 4 years now, probably 2021, I think. So it's been some time. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Emphasis that. So it's good to be back here. And yeah, Mets are, you see the record right there. You see it. So positive, Hayden, indeed. So good to be here. Mets Talk with Hayden is the name, and I'm just super excited to talk some baseball here. LFGM.
There you go, Zach. How you doing, buddy? What's up?
I'm doing pretty good. I'd be doing a little bit better if the Mets and Knicks could have closed it out yesterday. The Mets with the sweep over the Pirates and the Knicks, advanced into the Eastern Conference Finals against what will be the Pacers. But not too bad. We got a battle in the Bronx starting tomorrow. We have a Game 6 in the Garden, so hopefully we can kick off our weekend in an exciting fashion.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Hector, I like the shirt. What's up, man?
What's going on? I know Rob and Hayden with a Mets hat. We've made progress. Hayden with a Mets hat, baby.
That's right.
And that's not Chris, but how you doing, Zach?
Doing good, Hector.
No, man, excited to be here. Always have fun talking to you guys. And it's been a minute, like Hayden said. So looking forward to this weekend. And having fun so far with our team,
Yeah.
Riding the wave, baby. Riding the wave of what is the 2025 season. That's what I'm calling it this year.
Yeah, hey, that's what it is, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly what it is, right? 12 games over 500. First place in the NL East, 2.5 games up. You keep on winning series, you're going to find yourself leading that division for the entire year. And they got to continue that tomorrow. But we're going to start with the homestand. It wasn't a perfect homestand. It wasn't the well-played homestand. 4-2. Obviously, we lost one against the Cubs. We lost one against the Pirates. But overall, it was a solid homestand, 4-2, as we head on I'm going to call it quote-unquote road, so to speak, as we're not really going that far, to the next borough and then to Boston. But, I'm really good with the homestand. I'm happy with the homestand. I'm a little annoyed about yesterday, but, you get games like that, and you just got to, brush it off and play tomorrow. And I'm glad they have an off day, resting our bullpen, resting all the guys. If there was something tweaking Juan Soto because of the other day when he slid into second base, everybody's going to try to get as healthy as possible. Hector, I'm going to start with you with the homestand. How are you feeling with this Mets team overall after this homestand? Are you concerned about this team in some sort of way, or are you confident going into tomorrow's start of the Subway Series with this homestand?
I'll start with concerned, and I'll say it's hard for me to get concerned at all this season with this team because I feel good about this team. I feel confident in this team, And when I say I feel confident in this team, I should say I feel confident in this organization right now. So I feel confident in our ownership. I feel confident in our front office and everything that entails, analytics, pitching lab, all that good stuff. And I feel confident with our coaching staff led by Carlos Mendoza, who people want to fire every other night or label him as the worst manager in history every other night. So it's hard for me to get concerned. Do I get annoyed? Rob, you know me. I get annoyed. You know what I'm saying? I ride the wave. Like I said, I used to call it a roller coaster. This year we're going to call it the wave since I don't know if you saw I made a big deal about the wave at Citi Field, and some people came after me. So I said, you know what? I'll ride the wave. I'll ride the wave of the 2025 season because I think it's going to be a good wave. So I'm not concerned. I get annoyed at some points. Right now, I'm not there. I feel good going into the Subway Series. Yeah, we're 6-4 in the last 10. We lost our last game, but we won the series. If you look at the Yankees, they're 6-4 in the last 10. They went 2-1 in their last series. What's the difference? That they won their last game and we didn't? Nah, not a big deal to me. So I feel pretty good right now. I feel pretty good right now. I really do. I'm actually looking forward to this series, and I know we'll probably get into it. And you have it there. The pitching matchup's probably not the best in some people's minds. But hey, there's a good test for these guys. They've been doing pretty well. McGill, a little maybe stumbled recently, but they've done pretty well for the most part. So let's see how they can do with the big bad Yankees in Yankee Stadium. But I feel good.
All right, I like that. I like that positivity from Hector right now with that confidence of
Let's
the
see how long it lasts.
Yeah, hey, listen, hey, it's the confidence of the organization, right? You start with it's very hard to trust the Mets organization with all the years that we dealt with, the teams over the years and the organization and the missteps of management all over the place. So I completely understand you have the confidence in the organization, needed to do the right thing to put in their players in the right position to win. And that's all you can ask for, right? They got to play on the field and let the best man win. So, Zach, same question.
Hector took the words out of my mouth. I mean, I'm confident in the organization. I guess this past series, really, out of the last 10 games, is really the only one I was a little bit frustrated with. They were still able to squeak out the 2 wins, but I'd love to see some more from the offense. The pitching has been great. Clay Holmes, even though he let up the 4 runs yesterday, still had himself a nice game. I think that first home run was kind of BS. Very easily could have been a strikeout there. He's out of the inning, and we're talking maybe a different ball game, at least in terms of his final line. But other than that, I think the off day was much needed after some hard fought series, some ups before the Diamondbacks away series, and then they're kind of down with after that last game against the Pirates. Get a day off, regroup, collect yourselves, and get ready for a battle, because this weekend is going to be a battle. We have 3 good pitchers. I know Schmidt's not having the best year, but Rodon and Fried are both pitching very well, Fried in particular. And Fried usually pitches pretty well against the Mets, so that should be a battle on Sunday. I'm just looking for some of these players to take advantage of that short porch in right field and really get the bats going super early, because that's one thing we haven't seen. We haven't seen too much of our offense giving big leads to our pitchers early on where they can pitch loose. And I think they need that, especially with McGill kind of stumbling a bit as of late, as Hector said. It hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been as good as it was in May or April. And then Canning and Peterson, I expect them just to kind of follow suit with what they've been doing all year. Canning has been better than Peterson, but I believe in Peterson and what he's done, what he did last year. And just go there and let's shut up some of these Yankee fans.
That's always the best part, shutting them up.
Yes, it is.
Even though winning's more important, but if you shut them up in the process, it's even more fun when you actually do that in their ballpark.
Oh yeah, so, quiet them early.
Oh yes, absolutely. Hayden, same thing. What's up? What do you got there?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this homestand. What was it, 4-2? I think anyone would take that. I mean, kudos. They got the series against the Cubs. That was a hard-fought series, and then you look at it most recently with the Pirates, and it was the results, kind of speak for itself, I guess. You have to look at it. 2-1. A good series ended kind of on a sour note yesterday with the whole raining and, how the Pirates got their runs. Arguably should have been 2-0, but whatever. But we could easily be sitting here and saying that we got swept. And not to be all negative, but Pirates were definitely one hit away and then another hit away from arguably sweeping this series against the New York Mets. But hey, you could use that argument and also say that yes, our pitchers are constantly getting into jams and getting guys on base, but they've been very good with getting out of it. We've seen it throughout a lot the whole season that the Mets pitching staff, whether it's Senga, he really battled with guys on base, whether it's Canning, whether it's McGill, whether it's anyone in the bullpen like Reed Garrett. For example, having guys on the corners with one out and then getting that double play or getting that strikeout and getting the third out. And that's something, just getting the third out, just being aggressive. And that's something that the Mets have been doing. And I know Rob said it on the channel a couple nights ago when I was listening, but it's up to the offense now. The pitching is doing their job. You have the best pitching ERA in baseball, or second, I think it is now. I'm not sure if it's us or the Padres or Tigers, but we're top 3 to my knowledge. But it is up to the offense. And, when you're going, 3 for 19 with runners in scoring position, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. Echoing with what Hector said, I do trust this front office to make the appropriate decisions that need to be made. Maybe some of those decisions are, calling it with guys like Starling Marte, maybe moving 1 or 2 guys around the order, maybe playing certain guys every day who should be getting more starting time. But, kudos to the guys that are getting hot. Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, Acuna. They've been playing great this past week. Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor, Soto's starting to warm up, but right now it's really just the runners in scoring position that's really irking me. And I know we'll talk about that, but I think that's really the only killer for this team right now. Is got to help out your pitcher. You got to give your pitcher an opportunity. And the Mets, yesterday with Clay Holmes giving up 2 home runs as second and third of the season, but you never really gave Clay Holmes an opportunity. In the first inning they did, and then who was it? I think Marte, or then Terren struck out, something like that. But really is hard fought series. They won. They got the job done. Pitching came in clutch. The pitching is the winner of the series. The award of the series, whatever you want to call it. Offense needs to wake up, and going into the Subway Series, we'll see. Maybe guys can take advantage of the short porch, like Juan Soto. He knows that stadium very well for the year he played there, as well as some other guys who have been there in the past. But it's going to be the same agenda. Runners in scoring position. You need, especially a lot of these guys, Rodon, Fried. You get, action on them early. You got to score because they're going to settle in. And we've said that 1,000 times for the Mets going against good starting pitching. The starting pitching matchups, whatever. Expectations are, I guess, whatever they want to be. But, just get the job done. And I'm pretty satisfied with the homestand.
Yeah, I think you have to be when you're 4-2. It could have been worse, right? We can always talk about it being worse, but it wasn't, and that's a good sign, right? Continue to dominate, or at least do extremely well at home, and look at the best teams in baseball. They're usually around 2 to 3 games over 500 on the road, and they dominate at home, where they're like 10, 15, 20 games over 500 at home, and that's where the Mets need to be. You're not going to be, on the road is, I think it's a crapshoot when it goes on the road. I don't care if it's a bad team you're facing or a really good team. It's just that's how, it goes in baseball. But I'm satisfied for the most part. It's always frustrating when you can go for a sweep and you lose that last game and you get the off day to think about it and, mull over it and all that stuff. But overall, I really do like it. Again, could have been better, but we'll take it right now. Obviously, with 12 games over 500, but the runners in scoring position, right? They have no issue getting on base. That has been probably the best thing about this offense, is that they get on. There is no doubt about that, right? We know for the first 30 plus games of the season that Nimmo and Vientos left basically a small village on base for this season. Like, it just seemed like they always had people on. It was always Lindor, Alonso, and Soto getting on for those 2 guys, and they couldn't get it done. But as a whole, the runners in scoring position has been a major factor as to why they lost. I'm not going to say the majority, but most of the games that they should at least been more competitive in, or at least actually won those games. The runners in scoring position is a problem, and the offense was supposed to carry this team, right? everybody talked about it in the offseason. I mean, we all did, right? Whatever show we've done, we talked about the offense. We're supposed to lead the charge here. Everybody has their own opinions about what the starting rotation is, the pitching lab, and all that. But nobody was picking the pitching rotation to be number one leading this team, and they are right now. I think that does have to change because at some point, the pitching is going to, I'm not going to say struggle, but slow down a little bit. And that's where we need the offense to pick it up and do their job and what they're supposed to do, because I think we can all agree here that there's another level to this offense that we're still waiting to see 44 games into the season. We're hoping it starts tomorrow and, get it going here, because the big thing is if this offense, if this offense can roll, I think this team can be almost unbeatable, because that's how good the offense can be. They can beat up teams without even pitching well. Like that should be the case. And I see you shaking your head, Zach. Yes. What's up?
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they could put up some crooked numbers and score runs in droves. So there's no reason they shouldn't be. I mean, they're one of the worst in hitting with runners in scoring position. They're one of the best in on base percentage in the league, top 10, 8 to be exact. So that there's ample opportunity to score runs and really pile on of opposing teams, especially early, which needs to be what they do going forward. I mean, we're not expecting them to hit 500 every night with runners in scoring position, but hit the average, and then a couple times a week, let's go above average. That you're going to have that off game where it's going to be weird conditions. You're playing a ton in a row, and you're going to have a bad game. You're going to have an off day on offense, and that's where the pitching can pick you up, and you hope they can, and they've shown they can so far. But we need to do more on offense where it's not only relying on the pitching to bail us out. It needs to be the offense stepping up and carrying a majority of the weight, and winning these games for this team.
I think one little just tidbit I wanted to throw in on top of with the offense is, I'm looking on, the past, the game scores, and a lot of the losses have been by one run. The two losses against the Nationals were by a run. One loss against the Diamondbacks by a run. The other was by 2 runs. A lot of these losses are 1 to 2 run games. So on the bright side, they're not getting, shut out or destroyed, but then you're losing these games that are at hand. And, the runners in scoring position is just something that is very frustrating. Because it's not just like 1 or 2 guys doing it. I feel like it's a good chunk of the lineup. It's obviously not all 9 hitters, but it's a good 3-4 hitters that are just being a culprit of it. So, hopefully this is something that they can sort out soon, because, all the other numbers, like everyone's saying, they're fine, whether it's on base percentage, hits, average, blah, 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 home runs, RBIs. It's just the one stat that they're like dead last in. I think they're like 28th or 27th in is runners in scoring position. Everything else there, 10, 11, 12, which I would say is pretty good for the Mets standards on that list. So, we like to talk about Eric, Chavez and Barnes, and well, that's going to be up to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of 3 for 12s, 0 for 10s, 1 for 11s, through these stretches of games. And, heck, I want to ask you, look, nobody can just, put their hand on and say, this is the reason. But what is your thoughts of why do you think they're struggling with runners in scoring position? Do you think it's the mental situations, squeezing that bat too tightly? Do you think it's just, circumstance where they're just guessing at the plate? What do you think the reason is for them having issues with runners in scoring position?
Well, first, I just noticed, props to you. That's dope. You got all our logos up there.
Oh, yeah.
So I just
gotta represent, man. Come on now.
I just happen to notice that, and a little bit as to what these guys are saying, and sometimes I think things seem a little bit worse than what we think than what they really are, right? But to your point, Hayden, we are still number 1 in ERA at 2.84 or something like that. We are still number 1, but we are in 28th in runners in scoring position. We're actually 12th. And we may have gotten better. I don't know. We may, because we know we have struggled, and it feels like we're probably 30th. But I was just looking it up as we're having a conversation here, and they're actually tied for 12 or whatever the hell, or right about. So, no, hold on. Let me make sure I'm looking at the wrong thing. That is home runs. Let me correct myself. That is, you might be right. It may be 28th. You know what? They're 25th with runners in scoring
even
position.
better.
Yeah. Hitting at 224, which is just terrible. And why does that happen? I don't know. I the approach sometimes I think could be questioned, but it's a team wide approach and it's something that they want to do, and it's the swinging at the first pitch. And I understand it. I understand it to a certain extent. I even understand that we saw early on in the season, Brandon Emo came up in a situation. The pitcher had walked a couple of guys. I think there was a mound visit. Brandon Nimble swings first pitch, flies out to center field, ball game over. I think it was for the last out of the game, or it may have been like in the eighth inning. The point is, that started the conversation about guys swinging first pitch, but it's something that they've done. And I've listened to Mendoza talk about it, and I've listened to Brandon Nimble talk about it, and it's something that they want to do. That is their approach. They want to be controlled aggression, I think they called it, right? But at the same time, Mendoza did say at one point, hey, maybe Brandon Nimmo was being a little bit too aggressive. Maybe there are certain situations where you want to take a pitch or two. You want to, wait the pitcher out. So maybe there's some of that. We obviously know, for whatever reason, as a hitter, you fail to realize that the pressure is on the pitcher in those situations. The pitcher has the guys on base. He's led those guys on base. He's the one that now needs to get out of it. But baseball's hard. Guys grind the bat. I think the good thing is that, at least for me, it's team wide, but we're also seeing a guy like Juan Soto struggle with guys in scoring position, and we know that's going to be better. We're seeing a guy like Brandon Nimmo struggle with guys in scoring position, and I, for one, believe that's going to be better. But they need to do it. At the end of the day, they just need to do it. I don't know if I'm giving you a good answer or not, because I'm struggling with it, because I don't know why. I wish I knew why. Yeah. I wish I knew why, because I would give them the answers right now. I would go fix it. Let's go. I'm someone who came into the season thinking this team is going to score about 6 runs a game.
I think a lot of doing it. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, nobody can pinpoint it. And obviously, if the Mets were able to pinpoint it, they would be fixing it. So I don't know. I think it's just circumstance. I just think they, need to I think they need to settle down at the plate a little bit. It seems like they're jumpy. You talk about swinging at the first pitch, putting themselves in a lot of 0-2 counts that, what do you got to do in 0-2 counts? You got to protect. And for some reason, they adjust to the fastball instead of adjusting to a breaking ball and off-speed pitch. And it seems like they're guessing up there, getting into bad hitter counts, put you in a bad situation. A sac fly with less than 2 outs can get a run home. And it seems like they lack the ability to do that most of the time. And I don't know. It seems like it's just mental. I don't know. Hayden, Zach, you want to jump in there? What do you think is? What do you think it is?
I think part of it is just the situational hitting. There's a lack of taking the situation and thinking about that strategically, in the sense that with less than 2 outs, there's no reason for these guys to be swinging for the fences. I mean, you get into a favorable count, I'm all for going after one and trying to drive one 10 rows back. But you're in a negative count. You're up there, you see a pitch you could hit, right away. I'm all for, going for that, but also just trying to get that into the outfield, not trying to just hit it as hard as you can and hitting a worm burner or not being able to get it out of the infield or getting under something and popping it up. It's about just getting the ball to a position where you can at least get one. And then from there, you can keep going and going and going. If it finds some grass and it finds a seat, even better. But there needs to be a little bit more of this ability to just get the run in or keep the line moving, as opposed to scoring all the runs in one shot, which we haven't seen much from. And I think part of it too, there has been a bit of unluckiness for the Mets. I know I've screamed this from the rooftop, but they have hit the ball hard. They hit the ball at one of the hardest rates in the MLB, harder than some other teams. And their batting average on balls in play, which is kind of just middle of the pack, so that they are, when they do hit the ball and they do put it in play, they are finding outs on average a little bit more than other teams. I think they're in the bottom half of the league in that. So they're getting a bit unlucky, and they're just not trying to get the run. They're trying too much to do. They're trying to do too much. Soto's, I feel like he feels some pressure. Vientos probably felt some pressure to continue next year. Nimmo in a new position, batting cleanup. He's probably feeling some pressure. The guys that aren't feeling the pressure are, Lindor and Alonso. And Alonso should be feeling the most pressure trying to get a contract. And Lindor trying to follow up what was a second place MVP year. He should be feeling a ton of pressure. So I think it's about starting to get these guys settled and just trying to not impact the game too much with one swing.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Hayden, what do you got there? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, the runners in scoring position, like you said, it's not like it's, this is why or that's why. I think it's a mixture of things. I think, yeah, it definitely could be a mental thing. I think you could also make the argument that, different guys are, playing in a different spot in the order. Minus maybe Lindor and Alonso, most guys are in a different position in the lineup than that they've been in the past. For the last 100 and something games, you could say, considering into last season. But most of it is just the team is great offensively when there's no one on. They don't swing out of the strike zone. They don't expand the zone. They're taking their walks. Seeing a lot of walks. They're taking their walks. They're getting on base somehow, some way. They're getting their base hits. They're getting their doubles, their extra base hits. And then it comes bases loaded, one out, and then you're seeing whoever it is. I mean, Marte is a great culprit, swinging outside the strike zone, getting some weak contact, and then boom, and then it's 2 outs, and then it goes, oh well, there goes the sac fly. Could you still try and guarantee a walk? Nope. So I think it's just being disciplined at the plate, and a mixture of being aggressive to being calm, and just trying to get that run in. And whether you get the sac fly, great. Whether you get a walk, great. Not so much hitting with runners in scoring position, but one thing I have noticed is there's been a lot of double plays. That is something that I have noticed. So maybe the Mets running a little bit more. Lindor's a guy who I would like to see run more, because whether it's Vientos or someone, Alonso batting behind him obviously doesn't have a whole lot of speed. Trying to get away from that double play. Soto's 8 double plays so far this year. He's had 10 with the Yankees last season. So, I mean, he's a guy who, and I get, people say, oh, hitting the ball hard. And I get it. Unfortunately, it's a result-oriented game. But then on the other hand, you could sit here and say, well, they're hitting the ball hard. Good things will happen. Eventually, it won't find glove. It'll find the grass. And, that will happen. Guys like Soto will start to break out, and whoever else is hitting the ball hard. But really right now, just changing the approach with runners in scoring position. And I don't know if it's a Chavez and Jeremy Barnes thing. I'm curious to see their opinion on it, because it seems like a completely different approach when there's no one on, when they're getting guys on, to when they have runners in scoring position. And it's a big thing. It's it's arguably why you have the losses that you have now. Most of them are generated around runners in scoring position. And going on to later parts of the season, the pitching is not going to hold on as long as we want it to. Guys are going to, eventually start to get down to what they're more projected to be. And, hopefully the offense will step up. But, right now, my biggest thing is just discipline at the plate and run more. And that's why I like Acuna. Acuna's a guy, 10 stolen bases. So I think he's a guy who could easily get like 30 at 35, 40 at the end of the year. So, put the ball in play and steal on the bases. That's the biggest way to deter with runners in scoring position, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good point with the stolen bases, but what about the lost art of hit and run? That seems like a lost part of the game that analytics basically threw out the window. And if even if you're not old school, right? The hit and run is not just that it's so concerned of, analytics says, but if you strike out, there's the possibility of a double play. Well, if you hit the ball on the ground at a fielder, it's going to be a double play. So but the difference with the hit and run, it moves the middle infielders, right? It moves whoever's going to be covering second or short. It moves the infielders. It gives a larger hole either on the shortstop side or the second base side, where the hitter can actually put the bat in the ball and hit it in that direction. And hopefully, you end up first and third and whatever the outs are. And that's what they should do more. And, the Mets have done it a little bit more than I've seen other teams do it. And again, I'm not sitting there watching, Colorado Rockies baseball, at 11 o'clock at night. But it seems like there's it's a lost art. And I think it's still fundamentally a good baseball play that is not used enough. especially with a team that doesn't have a lot of speed. And let's be honest, besides Acuna and you could throw Lindor in there, this team doesn't have much speed, right? They can still go first to third. They're not barreling over bases or anything like that. Alonso, legs wide spread running, but he can pick up the speed a little bit. But these guys can go first to thirds on a single, but sometimes I feel like it feels like it's base to base. Like they try too hard or they don't get the job done, and it's like, all right, here we go again. So they're gonna force the issue, like Azakar, what was it last night, getting thrown out, forcing the issue a little bit because they're trying to do more because they're not getting it done at the plate, and that can get you into trouble. And obviously, it got us into trouble yesterday. Gets us into trouble in other games where we might be trailing. And Hayden said it earlier. We're losing a lot of games. The games we're losing is 1 or 2 runs. That's the difference from a bloop and a blast. A couple of hits in a row, maybe a double in the gap, driving in 2 runs. That can be a difference in the ball game. And I think that's the issue with this team is that they'll get those big hits late in the game when they might have 2 hits in the game, and all of a sudden they break out for 4 runs, like we seen the other day. And it's a no contest game. It was against the Cubs the other day. So it's a lot of there's an inning here where we'll score about 4 runs, but then we'll put up zeros the rest of the game. I think that's something that tacking on runs, insurance runs, they're also important. And it takes the team out of the ball game. And that is something that the Mets have lacked to do this season. Yet they're 28-16. So I have no clue what the hell I'm talking about because they're 28-16. Like it's I know the pitching has been really damn good, and I'm shocked as all hell. And again, it's only 44 games. It's not even a half a season yet. So I'm not gonna, vote anybody for Cy Young right now. But it's amazing what they have done. Besides McGill kind of going through a little bit of a rough patch his last 2 starts, everybody's been damn good. And it's like, it doesn't make sense to me at all because, Cannon has been a career disaster, right? Peterson, since before last year, he's been, average at best. Senga was hurt last year. McGill, inconsistent. That's been his career. And, Clay Holmes is not a starter until he is this year. So, it's amazing what they're doing. And, Hector, I wanted to ask you because, Zach, I don't know if you live in New York. I'm not going to, if you are. Okay. So you guys been to City, you've been to Met games. I've been on the road to Met games. But have you noticed anything different just from your vantage point? Like, obviously, we know what they're throwing more of, the better pitches of what they're good at and lacking, not throwing the pitches that suck less often, which I guess is the key to the lab. But have you noticed anything, Heck, that, their demeanor on the mound, their confidence on the mound? Is it just they're on a better team and they feel more confident? Because we know Cannon, for example, has been on a bad team with the Angels. Is it just being on a good team that changes the whole mentality, or is it a combination of everything?
And I think that's it right there. It's a combination of everything. Yeah, especially for a guy like Canning. I'll tell you one thing. When I watched Canning in spring training, that's one thing that I came away with was like, man, this guy at least seems confident. Like he got a little attitude to him.
He does.
That intrigued me, and we've seen that play out throughout the year. Has he always been like that? I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I never watched Griffin Canning like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe pitch against the Yankees, a bad day that I was watching the Angels or whatever the case may be. But I think it's a combination of everything. I think it's a combination of the good work that we're doing, the good people that we have now, the pitching lab, and they keep talking about the pitching lab is everything. I remember saying on the round table last year at one point, like, yo, I don't think everybody understands really the pitching lab, and how Jeremy Hefner said it's gonna take a while because you have to gather this information, you have to gather different outings and stuff like that to put it into the then computer and see what it spits out and what kind of numbers to compare them being out there on the mound during the game to what you're doing in a controlled environment of the pitching lab and in bullpens and all of that stuff. So I think it's all of it. I think it's all of it coming together. I think it's a team having a little confidence, like you said, because they're a good team. They believe they're a good team, and they're playing like a good team, and that helps too, right? And they're also playing off of each other.
Yeah.
One guy does well. It's always good to have that healthy competition amongst teammates where, oh, You're going out there, you're throwing 5 shutout innings, 6 shutout innings, or you win 5 innings today and they're asking us to go longer in games. I'm going to go six. Oh, you went six? I'm going whatever the hell it is. But I think it's a combination of all of that. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Canning, I mean Hector hit it. I mean he's pitching confident, and I didn't watch any of him in Los Angeles. I think the only time I saw him, I think the Mets played him last year, if I'm not mistaken. He was statistically the worst pitcher in baseball last year. But I think what Stearns and Hefner found in him, they found a way for him to just basically redefine himself and reform himself as a starting pitcher and focus on throwing his two best pitches, which is the slider and the changeup, the off-speed stuff, and really throw the fastball much less, just throw it to change the look, change the eye level of some of these hitters to keep them off balance. And I think just the confidence he built from spring training, knowing he could do it there and then carrying that over into the regular season. I mean, he's been a force up there for the Mets. He's been our best starting pitcher so far. I think bar none. I mean, I think Kodai Senga has been better, but Griffin Canning on a consistency basis, other than the one start, he's going 5 or more in each outing, and he doesn't walk as much as the rest of as many batters as the rest of the starting pitchers. And to me, just week in, week out, I feel most confident with him on the mound. And then Clay Holmes, I truly think from seeing him in the Bronx, he was never meant to be a reliever. He seemed like someone that could get shaken very easily on one bad pitch. And now that he's a starter, the one bad pitch doesn't matter as much. You know, you let up a 2-run home run. Well, there's 5 more innings, 6 more innings of me pitching. I could easily right the ship and keep it a close game. Whereas a reliever, that 2-run home run could be the deciding factor between your team winning and losing. Whereas he can settle down much more easily after allowing some runs, after a bad inning, after a couple bad pitches. Now, as a starter, he couldn't do that as a reliever. It was like, holy shit, how do I correct this? How do I make it so that I can keep the team in the game? Or what do I do now? I've just given up the lead, and now I have to go and get 2 more outs, get 3 more outs. So I think that was a great find by Stearns and Hefner, deciding to switch him over to a starter, especially since I'm pretty sure he started his minor league career as that, and then did start his first season in the bigs, if I'm not mistaken. So, and it's worked over the past couple of years. Like Michael King was a reliever turned starter. I'm trying to think who else. Garrett Crochet. Yeah. Seth Lugo. There we go. Seth Lugo, Garrett Crochet, all these guys, you find something in them and you can build upon them and turn them into starting pitchers.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent point, saying, it's not just one pitch, one at bat that can, change the outcome of a ball game. You got time to, fix that issue, so to speak, or give your team a chance to win. That's a great point by you, Zach, when it comes to that. Yeah, it is amazing. The one concern that I do have, and, I brought this up many times on multiple shows, and a lot of people in the chat are probably going to say, yep, Rob's saying it again, but it's true, right? We don't know when it comes to a guy like Clay Holmes, when he hits that 90-plus pitch innings mark, right? Is he going to break down? Can he pitch 6 innings and still pitch well? Is that all those innings that's added onto his arm, is that going to, because we've seen it last year, right? At some point, it took until the playoffs, but the guys started to break down a little bit, right? Their pitches weren't as sharp. And it kind of cost us in the Dodgers series, to be quite honest with you, even though, because they beat everybody up offensively, but you saw the pitching kind of like lagged behind in the playoffs, later we got into the playoffs. Now, it did take it to the NLCS, so it could be a lot worse. But, I do want to see, can Clay Holmes do it when he gets to the 120, 130 pitch mark in, late July, August, the dog days of summer. Same thing with Kodai Senga. He was hurt last year. He pitched 7-8 innings in total with season and playoffs. He hasn't thrown that many innings in, since 2023. David Peterson coming off the hip surgery. He did throw a lot of innings last year. Can he replicate that? I'm not thinking Peterson's going to throw a 2 ERA, but can he still be good while coming back from that injury and doing it again innings-wise? That's my biggest concern, right? Because you don't want to get into August and these guys, they're running on fumes already. And where are you going to go? You're going to call up, Tidwell? You're going to call up Sproat? Tong? Yeah, you could do that. Absolutely. But even those guys are going to be limited inning-wise because you're not going to throw them a lot. You're going to protect their arms. We saw what happened to Scott last year. when he came up, right? They started to push him a little bit more, and maybe that wasn't the issue of why his arm just, gave out. But they're not going to extend these guys, these younger kids, if they bring them up to help this rotation out to provide some innings. So that's my biggest concern is the innings when they get to that point, because a lot of these guys, yeah, they might have done it in years past. I mean, look at Manaea, right? Look at last year. He hasn't thrown that many innings in 4 years? So, and look what happened. He changed his mechanics and he thrown that many innings and he's on the shelf for 3 months. Like that, those are concerns. And that's the only issue that I have. Like, I can't question how good they've been because the stats, show for themselves. But the innings is really I'm gonna watch that very much so when the season gets further and further down the road for sure.
That's why, Rob, I keep trying to tell people, and when people complain about 6-man rotation, not pushing guys in March, April, and now early May, that extra inning, maybe that extra batter, people are losing their minds. And it's like, wait a minute. We have guys, like you said, that haven't pitched this many innings that we're going to ask to make an innings bump. Some a lot more than others. For Clay Holmes, no matter how much they limit him, no matter how much 6-man rotation we're using and all of that, it's going to be an astronomical jump if he continues to have a good year, right? Because you're not going to take him out of the rotation. But that's why I also wonder, and I've been saying it for a while now, I wonder if there's going to be a time this year where they say, you know what? We're going to shut Clay Holmes down for a week or two. He's not hurt or anything like that, but we're just going to shut him down. Or we're going to skip him a start here just to try to get him to the end of the season and hopefully a postseason. Because, like you said, can we expect them to get to that innings point where, they haven't been before and over and continue to go the way that they're going? I'm not so sure. But I guess we'll have to wait and see it to find out. It's gonna take a while to find out. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting to see for sure.
So I just wanted, so you said about the innings, and you say that's why, like, I'm an advocate. Hey, throw him a little, throw him in the 6th inning. The only reason why I say that is because you can burn out your bullpen in a month and a half, right? And I mean, we lost 2 guys. Not saying that the workload was the issue, but a guy coming off an injury like Minter, right? They used him a lot because they needed to. And again, you win ball games, you got to do everything you can. But taking out Holmes in the 4 and 2/3, Senga 4 and 1/3, this guy 4 and 2/3, maybe a 5th inning. You're going to be using 4 guys just to finish a game. And if anything goes wrong, you might use 5 or 6. And that has been consistent over the stretch of the first 44 games of the year, except for maybe a weaker stretch where the Mets pitchers went, I think 3 times in a row they went 6 innings, which is great because you need that from time to time. You got to protect your bullpen because I don't want to go in June and then the bullpen's like, running on fumes. And that's what is concerning because even though they've been damn good, you worry about that. I mean, again, you can get reinforcements at the deadline, and I'm assuming the Mets would do that. You're probably going to get reinforcements at the deadline if that is the need for the Mets. But, with Nunez just coming back, that should help the bullpen a little bit. He hasn't thrown that many innings because he was hurt and rehabbing. Stanek, we seen him, blow people out of the water the other night, and that's a good sign. Diaz is, a hit or miss. He's going to be shaky and give us a heart attack every time he hits the mound. But overall, this, it's hard to kill a staff because there's nothing to kill. They've been extremely good. But I do wonder, you're playing with fire here. Either way you go about it, you extend the starters, you might concern yourself with the innings that they might be throwing later on in the season. You use your bullpen more, they might break down earlier than you want them to. So it's kind of, this is why Mendoza gets paid the big bucks, right? To figure that out. And
I agree. And I agree and I disagree. I agree, like you said, you don't want to burn out your bullpen, especially earlier on in the season. You want to keep them fresh. But in the Mets specific case, I think it's a bullpen built to last. I mean, obviously you have 2 injuries earlier on in the season. Danny Young was more of he was a piece that was expendable, whereas Minter was that that eighth inning guy. He was that that guy that would come in before Diaz. He's your stopgap to get you to the ninth inning. And obviously him going down was a big blow. But outside of him, you got guys like Brazaban, you got Kranick, you got Buto, who has been shaky so far. And then you have Daniel Nunez, who just came back and, hopefully will start to grow on his previous performances and get better and better. But these are guys that can, He lost a bunch of weight. Oh, he does need to lose weight. Yeah. He does. He needs to find his consistency, find what he had last year. But those four guys are all guys that can go multiple innings, and that can kind of alleviate some of the issues you have with guys not going as deep in the games as you'd like. Whereas you can bring these guys in twice a week to pitch 2 innings, and that can eat up some of the innings that were left on the table by your starters and still keep your back end guys fresh. So it's a matter of not burning out the back end guys, because I think these middle relief guys, the long guys, they can help with that issue to some regard. It can't be all 5 starters in a week going 4 or 5 innings. You need some guys to at least pitch into the 6. But if 1 or 2 guys can't make it that far, that's okay.
One little thing I wanted to add was I was watching this Mets podcast. It's through like SNY or the Mets. You guys probably know who it is, but I don't remember their names. But they had Griffin Canning on theirs, and he was kind of saying, essentially he didn't say it, but how he worded it was he's happy he's with a winning organization, and that there really wasn't much pressure, obviously going to a successful franchise, and that him and the starting pitchers early on in the season, like the first 2 weeks when they weren't going long into games, right? Holmes was going like 4 1/3. McGill, guys were not going 5-6 innings, and then all the pitchers kind of got together and they had like some like reward thing where like they would win money or meals or something weird. But I thought it was kind of interesting. It shows like a little, come on, some type, I guess, friendship. I don't know, but I think when it comes to the Mets overall, like my general opinion when it comes to going deep into games is like, I get it's, May 15th. I guess when it comes to Mendoza, the bullpen management, how long do you leave them in? I guess it's good to be cognizant and nurture them, but at what level? Obviously we saw last year, we came into around almost June and our bullpen was taxed. Right, Reed Garrett, he was finished for the season. Daniel Nunez hurt, Christian Scott hurt. So I get it's smart that they're playing it safe. It kind of gets into the issue when you have guys like Clay Holmes, who've never been a starter, and you sign him to be in the rotation. Yeah, it's a risk you take. Unfortunately, and that's the same risk the Royals took when they got Seth Lugo, the Padres, Michael King, whatever, Yankees, whatever. But I would say right now, if they're going 5-6 innings, this is a team that I trust. And, I get a little worried, typically like you asked me in the beginning of the season, I'd say, someone goes 4 innings. Well, you got Budo. Do you trust Budo right now? Not really a whole lot. I mean, he's looked off to Nunez, another candidate who, I don't know if it's the weight. I don't know what his issue is, but he's a guy who has not been it this year. But right now, I guess I know I'm kind of going on a whole tangent, but just being able to go deep into games because it really just is a big blow to this bullpen. And the last thing you want them to do is get overtaxed. And I get it. Plenty of guys have options; they can go up and down. But really, tip of the cap to them this past 2-3 weeks. They've been going 5-6 innings, and that's all I'm asking for. This isn't 1985 anymore. Guys are going 130 pitches, 9 innings. I wish that was the case, but unfortunately it's not. So, if I don't really know if Mendoza has set limit number for guys. Like, I don't know if Clay Holmes has like a 100 pitch limit, or if it's like, only 2 times around the order. That is like one thing I would like to see how the Mets with Mendoza and Hefner operate. But I guess just right now, nurture them, but nurture them at a smart level.
Yeah. I don't think there's pitch limits or anything like that per se. I think early on, right, you stretching these guys out. So little by little, you build them up. Oh, so you hear them mention, he got to this pitch. We were going this much with him, especially with Kodai Senga. We heard it early on. I think now we're at the point that it's more about how they're feeling, what maybe the prior start looked like. How did the days in between? How did you feel? Because that's another thing that I always say, especially as it pertains to the bullpen, is it's kind of easy to sit, look up. Oh, this guy pitched last time. He threw this many pitches. He's available, but we don't really know what he's dealing with. You know what I'm saying? We don't know if he feels tired, even though we think he hasn't pitched in 2 days. He hasn't. Why the hell is Mendoza not pitching this guy? Or why is Mendoza not using this guy in this situation? Or why is Mendoza only using him for 2 batters? He didn't pitch for 2 days. He should have used him for an inning and a half. But maybe Mendoza didn't want to use this guy at all because he's been wearing out a little bit, but he had to because the game dictated it that way. But that's why he's only using them for two hitters. You know what I'm saying? So I always try to, especially with the bullpen, be careful with how I criticize that. And the other thing is and I think Zach alluded to it a little bit, is, and Hayden kind of did too, in a maybe the dismissive way, in the sense that this year they did try to have depth when it came to relievers, and we've used it, but we haven't had to use it so much, right? Because we still have our main guys, the Reed Garretts, Stanek, Buto, Diaz. They're all still healthy. The unfortunate thing is that we lost both our lefties, Mentor, the main guy, and Danny Young, who probably I was the only one who was a fan of him, because I didn't think he was as bad as people said he was. So that hurts, because now we're like, oh my gosh, we don't have any lefties. But I liked it when we got Genesis Cabrera. I don't know. I kind of liked it. I liked it when we picked him up, and I was like, okay, let's see what we get with this kid. And he hasn't been that bad. He hasn't been that bad.
He pitched well in spring, and I thought he was going to make the team over Danny Young, but I think it was the whole Danny Young options type of thing where they don't want to use him. So, but he's here now, and he's pitching decently. Yeah. So that's good.
Listen, that stuff takes care of itself, right, Rob? We always say that stuff takes care of itself
eventually.
But he's been good. But let me ask you guys something real quick, Rob, before we move on. As it pertains to all this innings limit, and not so much innings limit, but my guy Jeffrey on my stream was asking, and shout out to everybody on my stream, whatever. Some comments I see here, whatever. He's asking, do we think Holmes' what did Holmes yesterday? If you thought he had a rough start or whatever the case may be, the struggles, was it the weather? Was it him pitching for the first time on 5 days rest? And what else did he put? Or just bad luck?
Well, it could be the weather. I mean, it was a shitty type of day. It didn't look nice there. But, I think
I'll say this, Rob, real quick. My bad. I was actually at the Garden for the Knicks watch party. And I was putting the game on my phone, whatever. The first time I put it on was right as it started pouring.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, what?
And that's
right in the fourth.
He gave up the home run.
Yeah, and I said, I don't like this. He looks uncomfortable. Correct. 2 pitches later, boom, gone.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, like I said, it could be the weather. But, again, first time going on 5 days rest. I know that might not sound like a big deal, but I think it is. Like, this is a situation where the Mets were determined not to pitch these guys every fifth day from the start of the season. Go through the whole offseason. Anytime Stearns did an interview, 6-man rotation. Manaea and Montas gets hurt. Well, we don't have a 6-man rotation because we barely got a rotation. And then we were going through 5 days, and with all the off days early on in the season, they were able to give the extra days off. And then, when we went to that 13, 14 game stretch where we had no days off, the pitching, that was when we struggled a little bit. That was when we had to use the bullpen. They were going 4 2/3, 5 innings, not even going past the 5th inning. Can't even reach the 6th inning. And that was when the bullpen was starting to get overused, and we were struggling a little bit. I'm not going to say – I think it's a combination of both. I'm going to be fair to Clay Holmes here, but we're going to see it, right? They're not pitching Kodai Senga in Game 3, which would have been his 5th day. They're giving him the extra day. They're throwing Peterson. Again, doesn't mean the Mets can't win the ball game, but I would have rather see Kodai Senga against Max Free, right? Best man against best man, but they're giving him that extra day. So, that annoys me a little bit because, again, I think this is as good as Kodai Senga has been, come playoff time, can he pitch twice in a 5-game series? Can he pitch 3 times in a 7-game series like most big pitchers do when called upon? I don't necessarily know. I mean, they might have to, but is he going to pitch well? Now, I know that's well down the road, but when you hear, and I'm glad Hector brought it up with Clay Holmes because they did bring it up on the broadcast yesterday. First time pitching on 5 days rest. a guy who's trying to be a starter here. Didn't pitch well. Now, he wasn't bad, and, the weather sucked, so it's definitely a combination, but you know what? You're not going to have perfect situations all the time. You got to still go out there and do what you got to do. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt yesterday, but it was against a bad Pittsburgh Pirate team. Like, let's be honest about that. But the Mets offense didn't help him. So I don't know anybody's thoughts about that. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. Hector, excuse me. I'm sorry. But again, Hayden, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think it was really just two bad pitches. I mean, you look at that first one to Gaworski, or I've never heard of him before, so however you say his name. I what, four strikes already, and it was obviously bad calling the umpire, but still you gotta execute. You gotta get that third strike. I mean, say what you want, the umpire missed two obvious strike calls. One was clear as day a strike, but you got to adjust. So you get rid of that. Okay, still you gave up a 2-run shot later in the game, so it's 2-0. I think it was a mixture of the rain. You kept seeing him. He was trying to dry his hand off. I think that was the game that should have been delayed for another 30 minutes to an hour. I'm not really sure why. I don't live in New York, so I'm far from it. So on the last one, I could probably, talk on that. But I feel like that was a game that probably should have been delayed for another hour. Because I saw it at one point. It was just downpouring, and you could rarely see rain
right
on
when
TV.
Right when he gave the home run.
Yeah. And how did the hitter even see that? Like, that's how bad the rain was coming down. Like, it's crazy.
Pirates, their black helmets were like shiny. You could just see the water. So yeah, I don't know, but I just think it was just two bad pitches. It's gonna happen. He's not gonna be a guy who's gonna go out there and throw 7 innings and 2 hits and no runs. And he's gonna give up some runs every now and then. To sit here and say Clay Holmes has a sub-3 ERA, whatever he has, I would have called you a liar if it was, you told me that on May 15th.
3.14 now.
That's pretty good. Like,
that's great. That's great.
But just unfortunate 2 pitches is really what I think that the 5-6 day thing is a little annoying because it's like you have to base it around Senga and then you have to base it around Holmes. But do guys like McGill and Peterson and Canning need that 6 to, I don't know. But I agree. Hopefully getting Manaea back soon, that'll kind of
alleviate things.
Exactly.
And not to get too in depth in it, as you guys have already kind of broken it down, but like Hayden said, it was 2 bad pitches, and I think it's tough to kind of bounce back after getting 2, not just 1 but 2, to throw another good pitch after you get a bad call on 1 strike, to throw another good one and not get that call. That's tough to come back from. But that's part of being a pitcher. You're gonna have to look at the umpire in the eye and say, what the hell was that? And then go right back there and throw it. And he didn't do it. But when you really break it down, outside of the 2 home runs, he only allowed 7 was it 7 or 6 hits? One of the 2. I think it was 7 hits and then 1 walk on 5 days rest. As opposed to we've seen 2-3 walks out of him. We've even seen more at times. So it's good to see him not walk too many last night. It's good to see him get into the 6th inning. Battle through the bad weather, battle through the adversity, not getting the call he wanted. And that could have been, if he does get that call, we're looking at a much different game. We're talking about a much different outing for Clay Holmes, where he pitched really well on regular rest, battling the weather, where the only reason that he only allowed those couple hits and wasn't as sharp was because of the weather, not us talking about how, he allowed 4 runs on regular rest and, contemplating whether he needs that extra day. Because I don't think he does. To get through that 6th inning was good on him. So I'm comfortable with Clay Holmes. I think he's one of our best starters. I think he's going to prove that. I think he's going to pitch a full season. I mean, I have no reason not to think that so far. And he's gotten better. He's gotten better as the season's gone on so far. He's been able to get deeper. He's been in more command of his pitches and his counts. He's been able to get deeper and deeper, and I expect more of the same to going forward.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about it being the raccoon? Guys in my chat are saying it's the raccoon.
Shout out Jeff McNeil and Francisco Lindor from
everything up last
2022.
Yeah, I mean, all along.
Is that a rat or a raccoon?
It was finally a raccoon. Like, I mean, thank God.
Now we finally know what it is.
I know it was on all of our minds the last 2 years. We weren't really talking about the playoffs during the playoffs. It was about the rat and raccoon. Now we finally know. Lindor choked him because he knew he was wrong and said, McNeil, you were wrong, and just wanted to be right. And, he was wrong. So it's all right. we got a couple of MVP caliber guys here. Not McNeil, but Lindor is the MVP candidate, and McNeil was right. So McNeil just barely plays anymore because of Acuna. So good for him. All right, so I just want to before we get into the Subway Series and talk about that a little bit, got two questions here. One from Ray. It says, question, Beatty at third and Vientos DH. Thoughts on that? I'm a big proponent of Brett Beatty. I've been that for a while, even when he sucked. Hayden, I'll start with you. What do you think about that? Beatty at third, and Beatty has been the better defender this year than Vientos, but overall, what is your thoughts? Beatty at third and Vientos DH.
I'm all for it, Ray. Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, Beatty's defense that we've noticed this season in spring training and even a little bit of last year, he's a great guy defensively. I'd be curious to see if I'd like to say third base is going to be the position where he gets most of his reps from. I feel like that was kind of just a curiosity thing to see how he'd be at second in spring training, just because we didn't know what was going to be. But yeah, I if I'm the manager, Brett Beatty is my everyday third baseman if he continues to play the way he does. Vientos is great offensively. It's just his defense. He's just, I don't know. The ball went through his glove. I just feel like that's such a, what is this, a cheap little league game? I really don't. I'm not the biggest fan of Vientos at third. I guess in my opinion, Vientos is a first baseman if for whatever reason Alonso's a DH or he gets the day off. But yeah, that's how I would roll. Beatty at third, Vientos at DH. Because you want to keep both their bats in the lineup somehow, some way, but you obviously prefer Beatty's defense next to Lindor on the left side of the infield. So yeah, Beatty at third and Vientos DH.
Yeah, Zach, I saw your thumb up.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, I'm a big Brett Beatty fan. I have been since they drafted him. I mean, everything about him screams potential superstar, and you see it with all the advanced analytics and all the stats behind the scenes. He hits the ball harder than a lot of players in the league. He has one of the hardest hit rates, hard hit rates, and it was just a matter of, can he consistently get the ball in the air and can he consistently produce? Can he battle the ups and the downs? Can he rebound after a couple weeks stretch of playing bad and bounce back and then go back on the tear? So that's been our big question for him so far, and we're now starting to see the fruits of his labor. He's been up and down and up and down. We're finally starting to see him stick and find a home. My big thing for him, I mean, we have a lefty tomorrow. Play him against the lefty. Stop with this Marte and a DH. And I like Marte. I truly do. I think he's an okay ball player. I don't think he's great. I think he's fine for what he is at this point in his career. But play Beatty at third base. Play Vientos at DH. And Acuna or McNeil at second. That's the best lineup the Mets have. And we just need to see it more consistently. Not a day off for Acuna here, not a day off for Beatty here because of the matchups. Play them more consistently. Every so often, you're going to have to play the matchup game. You really are. But for the majority, at least right now, we need to start figuring out if these guys can actually play in these negative matchups. At least what the analytics say. Because if we don't start playing them now, we might as well just trade them and find someone else that we know can. Because at that point we're doing a disservice to the player and then to ourselves, because we're just kind of wasting our time not putting out what could be the best lineup we have.
What do you think, Hector?
You guys know how I feel about Vientos, man. I love Mark Vientos, and last year nobody was worried about Mark Vientos' defense.
Agree.
This year, because Mark Vientos hasn't been hitting and had a couple of bad plays, the ball going through his glove. I mean, listen, the ball literally went through the glove. That shit doesn't happen. Maybe he needs to change that glove, but I'm not gonna blame. I'm not gonna blame him for that. Yeah, the webbing was too open on that. I don't understand how that ball went through that glove. I honestly don't. Crap. Now I get into that and I lose my train of thought.
While you say that, while you figure out, I'm going to say this. My wanting Beatty to play third base isn't a knock on Vientos. It's just the fact that I think
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I just he's a better defender, right?
I'm not
convinced. about
I
that.
think his ceiling is much higher than Vientos. And I love Vientos. I was screaming from the rooftops for them to play Vientos. I started with DH last year over Martinez, but I think Beatty has a much higher ceiling.
His ceiling defensively, you think, is higher than
as a player in general?
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I'm a big Vientos fan.
More athletic, Beatty. He's quicker.
I tend to agree with that. Only because, like, I know spring training doesn't matter. And Hayden, when we went to spring training a couple of years ago and they played that orange versus blue scrimmage, Brett Beatty was the star of the show. I know that doesn't mean anything, but you see, he just looks like a ball player. And I know that doesn't mean anything. He's got to hit the ball. He's got to catch the ball. But I feel like Beatty is that more athletic player. Like, I feel like he can. I think the confidence level needs to be there, and you could see it gradually getting better. And I think that's what, again, it's not a knock on Vientos, but if you can make your team better by letting Vientos hit, which is his major asset for this team, and play Beatty every day, who right now is the better defender. You get Beatty, Acuna, and Vientos in this lineup every day. I think that's a plus for all sides. Whoever you want to root for, you know what I'm saying?
I agree with that. I think both of them in the lineup is good, whatever, as long as they're both productive. I even agree that Beatty's quicker, more athletic than Vientos and all of that stuff. I don't agree that Beatty has the higher ceiling. I just don't see it. I think Vientos could be a freaking superstar, even if that's a fucking DH. But just to finish my point, so you could go, Hayden. I'm a Vientos guy. Listen, but whatever works for the team is what I'm with. What I did want to touch on was what Zach said, because I was having this conversation with my buddy Joe and Clark this morning, and it's the whole sitting left-handed hitters, because they only do it to left-handed hitters. It's not even young guys. It's to left-handed hitters versus lefties, and it drives me insane. Now, in our conversation with my conversation with Joe this morning, though, I was like, damn. Is Rodon the lefty that you want to throw him out there against? Rodon's a pretty good pitcher. I know sometimes, and especially as the Yankees had some rough outings or whatever, but he's doing pretty good if I'm not mistaken lately. Yeah. Is that the game that you want to say, okay, Beatty, let me see what you got against the lefty? Or do you want to give him, a lefty that's maybe not as accomplished or not as good? I don't know. Maybe he matches up well with him. I don't know. They know more about that than I do. I just wonder about that, because I always go back to Conforto, where they never let Conforto hit against lefties. And then when they finally let him hit against a lefty, it was like, I forget who the hell it was. I think it was Bumgarner or somebody. And he put him in a funk for like 2 months.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that.
I worry about that when it comes to Beatty. Like, I agree. I want to see him against lefties. I wonder if Rodon is the guy to do it with. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. In the Pittsburgh series, there was a lefty, not a good lefty. Beatty sat.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So, like, what are you going to do? You're going to sit him against Rodon, pitch him against, play him against Fried? You got two lefties going in this Subway Series, right? You're going to sit him 2 out of 3 games?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I would play him first against Rodon. You know why? Because Rodon throws a lot of meatballs up there, right? His fastball is very straight, right? And I think that's a situation where Beatty can jump on the ball. He's been hitting the ball to the opposite field with power. That's a good sign. That's perfect against a lefty. And it pisses me off because I'm a left-handed batter, and I know how annoying I used to get when I used to get taken out of games and not play because there was a lefty on the mound. And I used to bitch and moan at my manager. I'm like, come on, throw me in. Like, let's go. Or coach, whatever you want to call it. Like, throw me in. Like, let me prove that I can do it. Once I don't do it over a stretch of time, you could sit my ass down. But nobody has any idea if Beatty can hit a lefty. I don't care about spring training stats or minor league stats. Like, that's, a lot of terrible guys playing in the minor leagues that are lefties. But give him an opportunity against Rodon. DH Vientos, play Beatty at third, play Acuna at second, throw these young kids in the lineup, and go after it. Like, I think that's our best lineup. If you want to fix runners in scoring position, put your best bats in the lineup to start the series. Right? If it doesn't work out, all right, if Beatty goes 0 for 3 and looks terrible, you're not going to play him against Fried. Completely understand that. But I think give him a chance. Give him a chance. Why the hell not? Like, there's nothing. You're going to play Marte? Like, it's just for two out of 3 games? That doesn't excite me at all.
No, I agree with that, Rob. And the question I was going to ask you guys, I brought it up, was are you going to start Beatty tomorrow? And I agree, Rob. I think you need to throw your best guys out there tomorrow. Marte, send him to the moon. I
Marte is
I
DH of the
don't want
month.
to sit here and say he's going to be a Robbie Cano beginning of 2022, but I mean, we're seeing some bats that look pathetic. I mean, we're seeing 1, 2, 3 at bats, a little crap to the first base. Yeah, we're gonna Marte. I think that's going to be a conversation that's going to happen soon. Now that you have young, athletic guys taking over that spot, maybe it's just Marte's not playing every. I really don't know. I think it's that point in his career. What is he, 36, 30, something like that? And that's what happens when you sign an aging outfielder to a 4 or 5 year deal. But I would say tomorrow you need to play your best guys, and if it doesn't work, then you alternate. Now you know, and that's why I agree. Tomorrow I want to see Beatty in the lineup. I want to see Acuna out there, Vientos, obviously Alonso, Lindor, Soto, and the rest of the gang. Maybe I think the only toss up could be McNeil. Well, maybe you said tomorrow.
Probably said, yeah.
But
McNeil probably said.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So then they probably will go with a Starling Marte against the lefty. But
you probably go Tyrone in center then.
Yeah.
I actually think Marte gets a little bit too much heat, to be honest with you. And we act like Marte is playing every day and is the fixer at DH. Like he's not.
No, but
he bats again against lefties. He is learning how to DH. He is adjusting. We talk about young guys adjusting. Even for a veteran, it's an adjustment to now be a DH, to now be somebody who doesn't play every day and is asked to go there and pinch hit. You got to learn how to get ready to get that pinch hit opportunity. I mean, to take advantage of that pinch hit opportunity. You got to learn how to sit all game and have only 3 or 4 at bats or whatever the hell it turns out to be that night. So, I'm not going to go crazy. If we're depending on Marte to win those games, we got bigger problems.
100% agree.
We got bigger problems. We keep talking about runners and scoring precision. We keep talking about this. We keep talking about that guy. And nobody has talked to me about Teflon Juan and when the hell is he going to start getting the job done with runners in scoring position? Because you can't say nothing about Teflon Juan. Oh, it's okay. He has his OPS. He's going to draw walks. No, damn it. How about you be the game changer that we brought you here to be? I'm not depending on Starling Marte to win me games, Tyrone Taylor to win me games, and they have probably more than Juan Soto as far as actually getting hits. I'm not trying to diminish the impact that Juan Soto has on the team and the lineup in general, and just his presence has. Oh my God, Hector, look at Peter Alonso because of Juan Soto. Don't get me started on that, because I also say, how about we give Peter Alonso credit for putting in the work and for recognizing his damn flaws and for not swinging at that pitch in the first base dugout. You know what I'm saying? Those are the guys I look at. You know what I mean? I look at Brandon Nimmo. When the hell are you going to start getting the job done? And I'm a big Brandon Nimmo guy. So I think sometimes we focus too much on Starling Marte, on Jose Azocar. Oh my God, we didn't pinch hit in the 4th inning of a game on May 12th for Jose Azocar. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
But we still have Francisco Lindor, Peter Alonso, Brandon Nimmo.
Correct.
And all of these guys
if your
in the
top
lineup.
5 is not doing the job, if you're going to rely 6 to 9, you have a lot more problems than what we're talking about right now, right? And again,
I will say,
I just think Marte, it can still be
he's fine for what he is.
A productive bat for us in a limited role.
Yes.
In a limited role. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's playing maybe a little bit more than he should right now because of the injuries, or because the injuries maybe to Winker, as we try to, find out what Beatty is. And because, listen, up until maybe a week and a half before he got sent down, people wanted Beatty shot to the moon. You want to shoot Marte to the moon now? People wanted Beatty the hell out of here. Then he hit the home run against Wheeler, and oh my God, this guy's Babe Ruth now. Because that's how we do. That's what we do.
Marte get the job in the playoffs, right? I mean, he stepped up big time in the playoffs. So, like you always got to keep those guys type around. You can't just get rid of those guys because those guys can mean a lot to you in a big spot in the playoffs for sure, like he did last year. But before we finish up with just to talk quickly about the Yankee series, just one more question. Do you think Senga win sign if he continues to pitch this well, yay or nay?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's pitching very well. I think I have a couple problems with Senga, and it's his inconsistency up there on the mound. I think he continues to walk batters like this. He won't be in the Cy conversation. He needs to tone down the walks, and he needs to find his fastball once again. He can't just go up there throwing that ghost fork all the time, and that's what he's doing. He's throwing it at a much higher rate than he has before. And that needs to be an out pitch for him, not a strike pitch, not a pitch to get him ahead in counts. It needs to be the one that he uses to put hitters away. So, yeah, it's a yes and no question because I think Senga at his best is yes a Cy Young candidate, but I don't think he's at his best right now, whatever the numbers may say.
Yeah, I agree. If he continues to put men on base like he did against the Pirates, and I know we got out of it, but it is the Pirates. A better team ain't gonna let you get away with that most of the time. So he's got to limit the walks, like you said, Zach. I 100% agree with you. But we'll see when he pitches against those really good teams. Can he avoid that big inning when he walks two batters when they're not swinging at that ghost fork and they're waiting on that fastball to get in the zone? That's where Senga's really gonna earn what we're expecting him to do. As the top line starter. For sure.
Yeah, he's gonna start running into Mitchell soon with the walks. I mean, he's worked his way out of jams, but he's not always going to. You're not gonna get. It's not lucky, but you're not always gonna have as good fortune. Balls are gonna find open grass, and they're gonna find their way into the seat too.
Sorry, guys, I was looking at the comments. Give me a second, trying to catch up on all these comments.
I think there could be multiple guys in the Cy Young.
Griffin Cannon.
Obviously, yeah. I don't know how the likelihood Cannon Clay Holmes wins it, but they could definitely be in the top 10, top 7. I mean, I saw like some ESPN predictor thing, and they had it was like Canning 2. I want to say they had Senga like top 5, and I think they had Clay Holmes also smushed in there. But yeah, I definitely think we could see a scenario where there's like multiple guys in the top 10, but I think obviously out of all of them, Senga's most likely the one to get it. But yeah, just limit the walks and keep pitching what he's doing and quality starts, and it's up to him.
Yeah, I do agree with that for sure. I forgot what somebody said, but that's all right. I lost the comment. But when it comes to the Yankee series, right? I think you have to lean Yankees pitching matchup with Rodon pitching really well this year. Fried's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. I would give game 2 to us, but again, you never know, right? I hate playing at that ballpark. It's a little league ballpark. I just don't like playing at Yankee Stadium at all. It annoys the hell out of me. I feel like there's too many cheap home runs there, and hopefully we hit about 7 to 10 of them during this series, and make a fun weekend of it. And we can shut these Yankee fans up, or at least for this series. But overall, guys, just go around. Hayden, I'll start with you really quickly, just so we can end the stream here, so everybody can go about their business. Overall, what do you want to see in this series against the Yankees? Right, obviously bragging rights, but what do you want to see from this Mets team against the New York Yankees and the Bronx?
I would say just good baseball and a series win. It's out of 3, right? So I would say a series win. Pitching, go out there and do your job. Get a quality start at bare minimum 5 innings. If they can go more, wonderful. Like I said, quality start. So ideally 6 innings, anywhere giving up 2 to 3 runs max. Score when you have guys on. You got to hit with runners in scoring position. If they're going to pull this 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position, then, the Yankees could start getting out their brooms, because you're not going to win ball games if you don't hit with runners in scoring position. So I would say hit with runners in scoring position and just play competitive baseball, stay in it. I have no doubt that both these teams will stay competitive in the game. But I'm curious to see how Soto goes. Definitely curious to see how Juan Soto goes. I think he hopefully has a good return. Hopefully he could, shush some Yankee fans up. I mean, he only played there for a year, so I don't understand why everyone's acting like Derek Jeter left and went to the Mets. But whatever. I mean, I really don't get it, but whatever. Yeah, just play good baseball, quality starts, hit with runners in scoring position, and Soto go off. Use that right field, and hopefully, guys get sad.
Yeah, you guys should take advantage of that, and like you said, score runs, get runs in, hit well with runners in scoring position. That's a big key. I think that's just a key going forward, but especially against a team like the Yankees, who can really put some runs up on the board. And then, you said it, Soto. Something to shut out these Yankee fans. Come out with a bang early in that first game. Let's quiet them down real quick and let the boos rain down even louder later in the game when they have something really to boo about, when he's beating your team up. And then finally, don't let Judge beat you. Don't let Judge beat you. Pitch around him. Like there's not many. Paul Goldschmidt, I will wear that. He has been great this year so far. I did not think he still had it in him. I figured, at this point in his career, with the decline he's already he's been going through, to bounce back this year has been great and good for him. A good player, a good guy, and a great player actually. Trent Grisham 99 just said that in the chat. He's been very good this year. I'm just curious to see how well he continues to do going forward. But outside of those two guys, those three guys, and maybe Ben Rice too, there's no one I really think that's too dangerous in that lineup. Bellinger has been a shell of himself. Volpe has not lived up to expectations. And there's a lot of dead weight in that lineup outside of Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt, really. So I don't want to let, especially Judge, beat you, and try, roll the dice with these other guys. Don't let the big guns beat you, because if Judge is putting up 6, 7, 8 RBIs in the series, we're probably not in a great spot.
Yeah, heck, you can finish it up here, and I'll just give my final thoughts after that.
No, I think Hayden said something I've been thinking about lately too. Is like, what the hell is this thing? Like, this guy's a lifetime Yankee. This guy was a mercenary to steal from Evan for 1 year, and they act like, you know what I'm saying? Now I get it. It has to do with where he went, right? And it's the first big guy that we went to head with or for, and the Mets, were able to take it from him. But they need to get over it. But I'm looking forward to this weekend, guys. I told you, I'm looking forward to this weekend. And like Hayden said, I'm looking for Soto to take off. But you know what, guys? What I want the most, and I've been saying it for a while, I can't wait. And I hope they bring it. I hope they bring all the venom they can bring. Bring all the venom they can bring. Boo his ass. Let him know how you really feel. Because I think he kind of needs that. So he can let go of the Yankees and say, you know what? Fuck the Yankees the way I feel about them. I want him to feel about the Yankees the way we feel about the Yankees. And I think he needs to understand that they don't fuck with him no more. Excuse my French. Pardon me, guys, 'cause I'm about to get hype right here. If I keep going.
I was waiting for it.
But I need him to realize that this is home now. You're a Met now. Enough of the nonsense. Enough about the Aaron Judge this. Enough about the 50,000 this and whatever the hell he was saying in the post today. Come on, Yankee fans. Let him feel that hatred. Let him know how you feel, so that he can let you know how he feels by hitting up a couple over the little short porch and leading us to a series win. Because like Hayden said, continue to play good baseball. Let's see some offense, and let's win another series. Let's win series, guys. We've all been saying it, right? And Rob, how did you open the show? You win series, you're going to find yourself as a division winner.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I still believe.
That's all I'm looking for, man. That's what I'm looking for this weekend.
I still believe when it comes to the Yankees, it's Aaron Judge. And you could talk about Trent Grisham, how good he's been, Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt. Those guys need to beat you, all right? Aaron Judge still had to hit that home run, the go-ahead home run to win in Seattle, right? It's still that guy. If Aaron Judge beat you, you did something wrong. Let the other guys beat you in this lineup, right? I will tip my cap if Ben Rice hits the ball over the wall or gets a big hit. Trent Grisham, Paul Goldschmidt. I'd rather those guys do it, because those guys are got to pick up the slack when Judge can't do it, and Judge mostly does it most of the time. Don't give Judge an opportunity to cause damage. Let the other players do it, because more often than not, Judge is going to get it done over those guys. It's just that simple. That's how good Judge has been. Judge is MVP already. That's how he's an all-world player, right? All the respect in the world to him, but don't let him beat you. You don't make the best player on your team beat you. You just on that team beat you. You just don't. And again, it's not against Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, or Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt's probably a Hall of Famer, right? Ben Rice is one of my favorite players. I like him a lot. Trent Grisham is a guy who played well for the Padres all those years, and he's finally got an opportunity to play every day with the Yankees. As many Yankee fans last year did not want Trent Grisham on the team. So that's how, again, Met fans do the same thing with their players. Overall, don't let Judge beat you. If the other guys beat you, you tip your cap. That's all you're going to do, right? Respect, tip your cap. So win the series, right? You talk about the sweeps, bragging rights, right? Fuck the Yankees. Yeah, that's all great and all, right? But you win a series, you go on to Boston, and then you win that series. That's what you got to do here, because winning series is all that matters, right? I can care less if, what the Yankee fan says to us. It doesn't really matter. Boo Soto all you want. The shuffle will come out tomorrow because he's going to do it. I think he's been holding on for it. He circled that calendar for this series for sure at Yankee Stadium. So overall, guys, Hayden, Zach, Hector, I do appreciate you guys hanging on. Maybe we'll do this on off days more often. We'll see.
Love that.
This is cool. Chris will definitely join us for sure. So enjoy, everybody. Obviously, Subway Series tomorrow, pregame, all that other stuff. I'm assuming you, Hector, you might do a show tomorrow probably as well. All together, let's go Mets, guys. We'll
Let's
see
go
you
Mets.
all over hopefully soon, guys. Have a good night, guys. Let's go Mets. And thanks to all the guys hosting the show today, guys.
LFGM, baby.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Rob.
Let's go Mets.
Absolutely, guys. Have a good night.
Let's go Mets.
Thanks, Rob.